Hi everyone. In today's video, I will be going over the first part of our 4B study guide. This is problems 1 through 8. You may or may not want a calculator handy while you go through this. Most of this math is not too difficult, so a lot of it can be done on paper or in your head, but calculator does not hurt at all. All right, these first two are just graphing problems, graphing quadratics in two different forms. The first form, on number 1, you should recognize it. This is standard form. And then the second form is our intercept form. There are pros and cons to both forms. So the graphing approach is a bit different. I personally love intercept form, but standard form is not bad either. All right, first question, which way does it open, up or down? You can always tell by looking at the very front of your equation. In standard form, that's on the x squared. Notice that this is just a positive 1, so that means it opens up. Axis of symmetry, AOS. Use an itty-bitty formula to find it. X equals negative b over 2a. Reminder, please write this out. I know that this looks very simple to do in your head, but it's very easy to mess this up. X equals negative, in parentheses. B is negative 4 over 2 times a is just 1. So we have negative 4. This will become a positive 4 over 2, so 2. Reminder, when you write it over here, you write it as x equals 2. Because remember, this is the equation of a vertical line. That's what the axis of symmetry is. So I'm going to draw that into my graph. 2 on the x-axis, draw a vertical line through it. What's nice about this is it splits my graph completely in half. So it'll be kind of obvious if I've made a mistake. All right. What's nice about the axis of symmetry is it brings us right to our vertex, because this is the x value of the vertex. To find our vertex, we know that x equals 2. Y is unknown. We're going to find it. We know our equation is y equals x squared minus 4x plus 3. So we have y equals 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 3. 2 squared is 4. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8 plus 3. 4 minus 8, that's negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. So my y value is negative 1. And then I'll graph it. 2, negative 1, that puts me here. Make sure your vertex is on the axis of symmetry. If that's not the case, you've made a mistake. Y-intercept, this is what's so nice about standard form. This is the easiest thing to figure out. It's 0c. Because if I plug a 0 into this equation, I have 0, 0, and then my c value, 3. So 0, 3. So I go over 0, up 3 to do my y value, my y-intercept. And then I can get another point from here. I'm just going to flip it over this axis of symmetry. This point is 2 to the left of the axis, so I'm going to go 2 to the right to get my third point. All right, x-intercepts. X-intercepts are found by setting your equation equal to 0 and solving for x. X squared minus 4x plus 3 equals 0. You can solve one of two ways, either by factoring our quadratic formula. Try factoring if you can. This does factor nicely, so I'm going to factor. Quadratic formula is an option, but there's a lot more room for error, so please try factoring first if the numbers are small like they are here. I'm going to create my factors. And you can use your ACB chart if you'd like. I'm going to kind of take advantage of having a little line here to make my chart. So I have ACB. A is just a 1, so C is 3. B is negative 4. There are only two factors of 3, one in itself. And then to get a negative 4, these both have to be negative. Now when I do that, reminder, a negative times a negative is still a positive, so this still works. And then negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4, so that worked for me. So I have x minus 1 and x minus 3. So I split and solve from here. x minus 1 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0, add 1, x equals 1, add 3, x equals 3. So my intercepts are at 1 and 3 on the x-axis. Now that they're graphed, that should make sense. Notice they're both only 1 away from that axis of symmetry. And then lastly, you have to write them as points over here. Write them properly. This is 1, 0, and 3, 0. If you just write 1, 3 or combine them as a point, it is wrong. You have to write them as points. Once I hit domain and range, that means that my graph should be finished. So let's draw in the actual parabola. Don't forget to take your time on this. Preferably don't draw the line straight up. It does keep going out on both sides. Something like that. Domain, negative infinity to infinity, always for quadratic functions. Range, you find the lowest y value. That's at negative 1. Negative 1 gets a bracket since it's a solid number. We have a point there. And then we follow it. It's just going to keep on going to infinity. Infinity gets a parenthesis always. Lastly, this is a formality. Do we have a maximum or a minimum? So find your vertex. This is the lowest point on the graph, so this is a minimum. Minimum at, and then we have to say the y value of that point, which is also in our range, negative 1. Please write min or max if that's your problem, at, and then the number. Please don't try it any other way. This is literally how I want it written. Don't try to put your own spin on it or be creative. Max or min at that number. That is it. If you deviate slightly from that, I will take off the point. This is just how we write it, and yes, it is a proper thing to do. All right, intercept form. I will start with the opens because that's the easiest question to answer. You can always answer that first off. Look at the equation. At the front of it, we have a negative 2. Negative means it's going to open down. So we're going to have that kind of shape. Now, you can go in any order you'd like. However, the preferred way, and I don't really like, I wish we would have swapped these because that makes more sense for me visually. I'm going to start with the x-intercepts. So I'm going to label these in order. I'm going to find the x-intercepts. Then I can find the axis of symmetry, and then I can find my vertex, which I normally use the axis of symmetry to find the vertex. So the only thing I'm really doing out of order here is I'm doing the x-intercepts first. Then I'm going my usual order. So not too bad. The reason I'm doing this first is because you can tell the x-intercepts just by looking at your equation. This is what I had to do in the last problem to get it into this. This is so much easier because I've already got it where I want it. Hopefully you're all at a point where you can look at this and tell me that the x-intercepts are at positive 3 and negative 1. If you're not there yet, remember, we just split and solve. So let's do that. So we have x minus 3 equals 0, x plus 1 equals 0, add 3, x is 3, subtract 1, x is negative 1. And that was for our x-intercepts. That's why it's called intercept form, because we can get our x-intercepts just by looking at it. So we have 3 and negative 1 on the x-axis. So positive 3 right here, negative 1. Over here, we're going to write them as points. Negative 1, 0, 3, 0. It's the only way you can write them and get the credit. Obviously, if you flip-flop them, that's fine too. Okay. Now, the trick from here is you look at the graph and you find your axis of symmetry. It's the number that is halfway between these 2 points I just plotted. So if you want to count, they are a distance of 1, 2, 3, 4 away. So I'm going to count in 2 because that would be half. And 1 is smack dab in the middle of that. And I know for sure because if I count 2 to the right and 2 to the left, I have my 2 points. So there's my axis of symmetry. So I write that as an equation over here. X equals, this is positive 1. There's my axis of symmetry. Now I can continue like usual. This gives me my vertex, at least the start of it. I know x is 1, let's find y. Vertex, x equals 1, y, we don't know. Let's figure it out. our equation y equals negative 2 times x minus 3, x plus 1. Negative 2 times, now we're going to replace x with 1. 1 minus 3, 1 plus 1. Remember, these parentheses say multiplication, so keep them there. Negative 2 times 1 minus 3, that's negative 2, times 1 plus 1 is 2. Now I just multiply all of this. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4, times 2 is positive 8. So the y value over here is 8. So 1, 8, let's graph that. Now taking a look, this is our vertex, and then it's going to go down here to connect to those points, which should make sense. We have a down parabola. All right, the last order of business is the y-intercept, at least to finish our graph. A lot of you get stuck here because you're used to using that 0C rule. Reminder, what you can take from this, x is 0, we know that. That's what a y-intercept is. X is 0, y can be anything, we have to find it. So x is 0, y, we don't know, let's figure it out. So we're going to use our equation. Y equals negative 2 times x minus 3, x plus 1. Y equals negative 2 times 0 minus 3 times 0 plus 1. Y equals negative 2 times negative 3 times 1. So really we can just ignore the 1 at this point because it's not going to change our answer. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. So y is 6. So our intercept is 0, 6. So let's find that here. And that's only 1 to the left, so we're going to go 1 to the right. And look, this looks like a mirror image, as it should. So this looks correct. So even if I'm not sure it's right, I am very confident it's right just because this is perfectly symmetric on the left and the right side. I have 5 points, so let's go ahead and draw this in. There you go. Domain, negative infinity to infinity. Range, be careful here. We go from bottom to top. Notice the bottom is where our arrows are. It's going down to negative infinity. So our graph is starting at negative infinity, and then it goes up and stops at 8. Negative infinity gets parenthesis, 8 gets the bracket. Max or min, look at your vertex. This is the highest point on the graph. So this is a max at 8. That's the y value, also in our range. And that's it. Backside. These multiple choice questions go very quickly. The graph of y equals negative x squared minus 8x plus 16 has a maximum or a minimum. That comes from whether it is going up or down. This is a negative here, so this is a down graph. Meaning that vertex is a max. A. 4, this is just a vocab question. The vertex is the maximum or minimum point of a parabola. So we're seeing, does this definition match this word? Well, if you're not sure, you can always draw a bit of a picture. Max or min. So this is a maximum picture. So I'm going to come back to that. And then this is a minimum picture. So the vertex is the same as the max or the min of the parabola. So yeah, this is true. They're kind of interchangeable terms here. It just depends on the problem. Number 5, which of the following equations is an intercept form for the graph shown? So first, these are all in intercept form. So if we had a standard form, we could have easily thrown that out, but they weren't going to be that easy on us. Let's look. We can kind of eliminate some options here. This is going down, so we should have a negative equation. A is not a negative equation. It's positive in front. Goodbye. Negative, positive, goodbye, negative. If we look at these options, the only difference is the plus and the minus sign. So it's going to come down to whether this should have a plus or a minus too. So let's look. We have a 0. It's crossing at 0 on the x-axis. That's what this negative x is out here for. And then it's crossing positive 2. Now remember, This is deceiving. You would think it's B, but remember when you solve this, when you actually solve it, set it equal to 0 and solve, that's going to give you x equals -2. It does not cross at -2. It crosses at +2, which when you put it into this equation, you have to change the sign. If I solve this for x, I get +2 because I would add 2 to both sides. So this D is my answer. Be very careful with that. It's a pretty easy problem, but if you're not paying attention, you might choose the wrong answer. 6. Find the vertex of y equals x squared plus 4x plus 3. Obviously, you have to know how to find the vertex. Vertex. You first find x equals -b over 2a. That's how you get the x value of your point. So let's keep track. We're currently looking for the x value. That comes from -b over 2a. -b is 4. Over 2 times a is 1. -4 over 2, that's -2. So let's see what I can get rid of. A has a -2, so I'm going to keep that as an option. B, that's not what I'm looking for. C is also a good option. D is +2, so let's take that out. All right, so it's either A, C, or none of these. So let's find the y value. Y equals our equation. X squared plus 4x plus 3. Now we just plug -2 into the x value. Y equals -2 squared plus 4 times -2 plus 3. Y equals -2 squared is +4. 4 times -2 is -8 plus 3. We'll bring this over here. Y equals 4 minus 8 plus 3. Y equals 4 minus 8 is -4 plus 3 will give me -1. So -2, -1. C is my answer. 2 more. Number 7, consider the quadratic function f of x, same thing, y, equals -4x squared minus x minus 3. State the y-intercept. Remember, there's a very quick trick here. 0c. This works because if I plug in 0 to find the intercept, this becomes 0, this becomes 0, -3 is all I have left. So it's 0, -3. Nope, nope, yes. C is my answer. All right, one more. Number 8. Consider the quadratic function f of x equals -2x squared minus 5x plus 8. Find the equation of the axis of symmetry, the AOS. Remember, the AOS is a tiny formula. X equals -b over 2a. If I find this, I will find my answer. Negative is always there. B is -5. Over. 2 times a is -2. -5, that becomes a +5. 2 times -2 is -4, so we need -5/4. Looks like A. Yeah. A is our answer here. All right, this is where I'm going to stop my video. See my next video for the second half of the study guide. Problems 9 through, I believe it's 14. 9 through 15.